Have you ever made a New Year's resolution? What was yours? Mine was to exercise and eat less. How original was that? Except for the fact that I promised myself that I would start my little mission on January the 1st. But then I had hangovers, so I skipped the first, and then I skipped the second, and then I had my friends coming by the second week, so I skipped it as well. And I'm still dreaming of this resolution. Of course, it will never happen to you, right? But here's my question. Why do we procrastinate? And what can we do to change it? If you're curious about the answer, watch this. Napoleon Hill once said that procrastination is the bad habit of putting off until the day after tomorrow what should have been done the day before yesterday. Go figure. Well, welcome everyone to Newsweek and Why Do We? I'm Martin Lindstrom, author of The Ministry of Common Sense, How to Eliminate Bureaucratic Red Tape, Bad Excuses and Corporate BS. And with me, I have the iconic Liza Donnelly. If you recall those amazing drawings in the New Yorker, at the Oscars, or the Emmys, well, then you know Liza. Hi, Liza.
Hi, Martin. I love to procrastinate. I'm a gold medal procrastinator. It's my job.
What is the worst habit you have? Tell me.
Well, just like you say, I put off. I have a drawing due, and I put it off. That way, I don't have much wiggle room, I guess. So I don't have to worry about whether it's perfect or not. I just do it. So
yeah. Why do we do it? Why do you do it? Do you think?
It's fear of failure. I think on my part, fear of not doing it right. So I leave it to the last minute.
Well, I bet you that you don't know what the answer is. I certainly don't know. And I think honestly, I couldn't find any better person on planet Earth than Richard Taylor to answer this question. Now, he is a 2017 recipient of the Nobel Memorial Prize in Economic Science. And basically, he's contributed to behavioral economic for a long time. Richard is also the co-author of the global bestseller Nudge, and his latest Nudge, the final edition. The final edition, that sounds a bit scary. I mean, is it really the final edition, Richard?
Absolutely.
That's it? No more books in your life?
Oh, well, this is the final edition of Nudge. There will be no post-final edition, no editor's cut. It's it.
Well, it reminds me a little about, is it Elton John and all these actors and singers always saying, this is my final concert. I still have my highest hope, right? Now tell me, I just want to, sorry for saying this, I never met a Nobel Prize winner before, so I'm deeply honored. But tell me about the call you received, I guess, from Sweden, announcing that you had been selected.
Well, I must say it almost didn't happen. So we have a landline in our apartment that we never use. I guess we procrastinated about getting rid of it. And somehow they called that line. And there's a headset next to my wife's side of the bed, and she could hear some other phone in the house ringing and picked it up. And the headset was dead. And it kept ringing, and then it stopped. And I mean, she knew what day this was, and it was 4 a.m. There's nothing else it could have been. But I was dead to the world, and she figured they were moving down their list. But then fortunately, my cell phone rang, and she had shaken me awake by that point. And so I did get the call.
I mean, let's just talk a little bit about your amazing work. I think the first time I bumped into your work was in a public bathroom where I was transfixed on this little fly painted in the very center of the urinal. And I tell you, not a single drop was wasted during that exercise. Is this the essence of your work?
Well, it is a great example of a nudge, because a nudge is defined as some small feature of the environment that attracts our attention and alters our behavior, but would not change the behavior of a rational economic agent of the sort you read about in economics textbooks.
And so I guess it leads us to the ultimate question, which is, why do we then procrastinate? What is the human psychology around all this?
You know, I don't think anybody has a really satisfactory answer to it. And I should say there are people who don't. Or most people do. I mean, in the U.S., tax returns are due on April 15th, and there's a line outside the door of the post office, which in many places stays open until midnight because you have to have the tax return postmarked by midnight. Now, the weird thing about that is 3/4 of the people filing returns are getting refunds. So by waiting until then, they're just delaying several $1,000s that they're going to be getting from the government. But preparing taxes is pretty awful. And here's the secret. In the U.S., the actual filing deadline is October 15th. The only thing you have to do is file for an extension by April 15th. And I manage to do that every year.
People are strange. I mean, I'll give you an example about a company which actually did a technique which I thought was really clever. HSBC, which is a Hong Kong, London bank, one of the larger banks around, they sent me a check because what has happened was that some of the fees that had been lowered over the last year. So they sent me a check. Now, I have not received a check for at least 10 years. And it was an international bank check, which you had to sort of cash in at a certain branch office in another country. So, of course, I never cashed in those $273 or whatever it was and 15 cents. It felt to me a little bit like some company is almost using this technique to make things even more impossible, right? Like unsubscribing. Is that true?
Well, that's right. And this is a good example of what we call sludge, which is one of the new concepts we introduced in the final edition of Nudge, which will be the last
limited edition, everyone. Final edition, okay? Don't mix it up.
Edition. And magazines, and it would be interesting to know what the rules are at Newsweek. But newspapers are notorious for letting you subscribe with one click, but to unsubscribe, you need to call. Gyms run this as a regular racket. They'll give you an introductory period, and you just give them a credit card, come for $10 a month. And then they automatically renew you at a much higher rate. And to quit, you have to go to the gym, track down the manager, do 40 push-ups, and so forth and so on. So, that's an example of sludge. And that's making things hard as a way of making money.
And my sense is increasingly with technology, sludge is increasing because a lot of the programmers and a lot of the people doing all this stuff are disconnected from the real world. They sit there and program away. I mean, I remember when I went to Paris from Switzerland, and I booked my return trip 3 days later. And so 3 days later, I was checking in Paris and coming back, and she said to me, "Hey, Martin, you're really, really early." I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "You're 1 month too early." And I said, "No," I showed her the paper. She said, "No, look at this." And she was right. I booked my return flight 1 month and 3 days ahead in time. And the reason why was because a programmer or whatever had automatically said, we want to jump the whole month. So instead of the 4th of February, it'll be 4th of March, right? I mean, this is a classic sludge, isn't it?
Well, we don't know whether that was intentional. There is a chance of user error there, Martin, in that story, I should point out. But so I think there's two different kinds of sludge that we face online. One is of the intentional variety. So somebody has figured out that they make more money if they make it difficult for people to quit. And the other is what we call curse of knowledge. And the curse of knowledge is the idea that once you know something, you think other people will know it. And a good example is trying to teach a child how to tie her shoes. And the problem is when you tie your shoes, you don't think about it. You just, right? You don't say, well, I put this loop here, and you have to sort of rethink how you do it. Well, programmers can't imagine that there are idiots who don't know that you have to press the plus box on the picture in the software that we're using at this minute. Of course, people will realize that if you want to increase the size of that image, you have to just find the little plus thing and click on that. So that kind of design is just bad design. And if you think about the companies that have become giants and successful over the last decade or so, most of them are doing it using good choice architecture. And things like Apple and Google and Amazon are masters of good choice architecture. If you want to buy a copy of a book, say Nudge, the final edition, on Amazon, you can find it in 10 seconds, even though they have every book in the world for sale. Imagine going into a store that had every book. You would run away because it would be so horrifying. So most companies that are successful are making money through good choice architecture. But there are people that want to just add to their bottom line through sludge, and I try to expose that and make people more aware of it. So the next time you subscribe to something, before you do it, see what it will take to unsubscribe. And if that's going to make you procrastinate about unsubscribing, just say no.
And I just want to say to everyone on the record, I right now had a Nobel Prize winner calling me an idiot. It's on the record. Everyone have heard it now. Beautiful. Listen, Richard, you have been absolutely amazing to talk with. And I have to say that well done on your amazing writing and your research. So everyone, in case you are curious about what this Nuts thing is all about, Nuts, the final edition. I love your illustration. I think this is the best illustration of all of them. How did you come up with that idea?
Well, I was thinking about doing taxes and how much paperwork there is in getting your taxes done, and what a hill of paperwork we have to climb in order to get that tax refund, if indeed we even get a tax refund, which we don't know until we do all the paperwork. So that's why I thought, the visual imagery of a person climbing a hill of mountain of government issued documents is the thing that we all have to go through to get to the refund.
Thank you so much, Rita. Really, thank you, and thanks everyone for watching Newsweek and Why Do We. See you next week, where I'll uncover the truth about why we do the stuff we do. And by the way, my mother always said to me, I wouldn't amount to anything because I procrastinate too much. And I said to her, just wait. See you. Thank you.